March 8, 2025. OpenAI announces the Stargate project, $500 billion investment in AI infrastructure over 4 years, featuring 10 massive data centers consuming more computational power than entire countries. Wall Street celebrates the technological milestone, but buried in the 847-page technical specifications lies a detail that should terrify every commodity analyst. Each Stargate data center requires 2.3 million ounces of silver for electrical infrastructure, server components, and cooling systems. I've been tracking industrial silver consumption for 3 years. March 8th was when artificial intelligence officially declared war on global silver supply. 10 data centers, 23 million ounces of silver. That's 3.6% of total global mine production consumed by a single project that most investors view as purely digital innovation. Stargate's technical documentation specifies silver requirements exceeding Tesla's entire annual consumption by 40%. Each data center demands silver-plated server components, silver-based thermal materials, silver conductor networks, and specialized silver alloys for quantum processing units. The 2.3 million ounces per facility isn't optional efficiency enhancement. It's critical infrastructure required for computational densities that make artificial general intelligence mathematically possible. The scale becomes incomprehensible when analyzing Stargate's timeline. Construction begins simultaneously across all 10 locations in Q2 2025. Each facility requires 18-month build cycles, with silver procurement front-loaded during the first 6 months. This means Stargate will consume 23 million ounces within 12 months, creating the most concentrated industrial demand shock in commodity history. Stargate isn't just competing with existing silver demand. It's creating entirely new categories of silver consumption that didn't exist 5 years ago. AI-optimized servers require 15 to 20% more silver per unit than traditional data center hardware, due to specialized cooling and high-frequency processing demands. When I calculated Stargate's total materials impact, I discovered something that should trigger emergency meetings at every major silver exchange. The $500 billion investment translates to approximately 31 million ounces of silver consumption across all project phases. That's 4.9% of total global mine production absorbed by artificial intelligence infrastructure. The timing creates perfect storm conditions. Stargate's silver requirements hit when global mine production continues declining for the 8th consecutive year. Tesla's EV scaling already consumes 27 million ounces annually. Solar manufacturing demands 200 million ounces. Electronics production requires 150 million ounces. Adding Stargate's 31 million ounces to existing industrial consumption approaches mathematical impossibility. March 8th marked when artificial intelligence joined electric vehicles and renewable energy as exponential consumers of finite silver supply. But AI infrastructure creates unique procurement challenges. Data centers require immediate deployment schedules driven by competitive pressure and investor timelines. Silicon Valley operates on venture capital cycles that cannot pause for commodity procurement delays. This creates price inelasticity, overwhelming normal market mechanisms. When Stargate's construction schedules depend on silver delivery within specific timeframes, procurement costs become irrelevant compared to project completion deadlines. AI companies will bid against each other for available silver regardless of spot prices. Stargate represents just the beginning of exponential infrastructure scaling following venture capital mathematics rather than industrial commodity cycles. Microsoft announced competing AI facilities. Google confirmed data center expansion plans. Amazon revealed quantum computing integration projects. When Silicon Valley commits $500 billion to AI infrastructure simultaneously, they're creating silver demand curves that mining companies designed for linear growth cannot accommodate. Stargate's silver vacuum follows a pattern where massive infrastructure projects create commodity demand shocks that overwhelm existing supply chains. History shows how technological infrastructure scaling creates materials crises that reshape entire economies. The Transcontinental Railroad, 1863 to 1869. Building 1,912 miles of track required 200,000 tons of iron rails, representing 40% of total U.S. iron production during peak construction. The project created the first industrial commodity vacuum in American history. Iron prices spiked 180% between 1863 and 1867. Mining companies couldn't expand fast enough to meet concentrated demand from a single mega project. The Interstate Highway System, 1956 to 1992. President Eisenhower's 41,000-mile highway network consumed 1.2 billion tons of materials. During peak construction in the 1960s, highway building absorbed 25% of U.S. cement production and 15% of steel output. The concentrated demand created material shortages that drove innovation in construction techniques and forced development of new quarries across America. The Internet backbone, 1990 to 2005. Fiber optic cable deployment consumed massive quantities of specialized materials, including ultra-pure silicon, rare earth elements, and silver-based components. Global internet infrastructure required approximately 15 million ounces of silver for switching equipment and data transmission hardware. The concentrated demand drove rare earth prices up 300% and created supply chain dependencies that persist today. Each historical vacuum follows identical patterns. Infrastructure projects create concentrated demand that overwhelms supply chains designed for distributed consumption. Materials prices spike violently until new production capacity develops. The adjustment period typically requires 7 to 15 years. But Stargate's silver vacuum operates in fundamentally different conditions than previous infrastructure projects. Historical megaprojects developed over decades with gradual materials procurement. Stargate demands immediate deployment, driven by AI competition dynamics and venture capital cycles that cannot accommodate geological development schedules. The railroad consumed iron over 6 years. Highway systems built over 4 decades. Internet infrastructure deployed across 15 years. Stargate requires 31 million ounces within 18 months of simultaneous construction across 10 locations. The compressed timeline creates demand intensity that previous infrastructure projects never approached. Silver supply chains cannot respond to Stargate's demand velocity. Mine development requires 7 to 10 years from discovery to production. Refining capacity expansion takes 3 to 5 years. Stargate's 12-month silver procurement window operates faster than any supply chain response mechanism can accommodate. This creates unprecedented conditions where infrastructure demand outpaces geological possibility. Previous commodity vacuums ultimately resolved through supply expansion or technological substitution. Silver offers neither solution within Stargate's timeline constraints. You cannot substitute silver in high-frequency AI processing without massive efficiency losses. March 8th marked the collision between Silicon Valley deployment timelines and geological supply constraints that no amount of financial engineering can overcome. When artificial intelligence infrastructure scales according to venture capital mathematics, while depending on mining industry timelines, the resulting vacuum creates market conditions without historical precedent. Here's what Stargate's technical specifications reveal about the hidden mechanism creating AI's silver vacuum. When analysts focus on computational capabilities, they miss the physical infrastructure requirements that make artificial general intelligence mathematically possible. Modern AI data centers require silver density exceeding traditional computing by orders of magnitude. Each Stargate facility processes 100 exaflops of computational power, demanding electrical infrastructure that handles massive power loads without signal degradation or thermal failure. Silver becomes critical because no other metal conducts electricity and heat with equivalent efficiency at AI processing frequencies. The mechanism operates through 4 silver-intensive systems. First, server-level thermal management. AI chips generate heat densities 10 to 15 times higher than traditional processors. Cooling requires silver thermal interface materials and silver-plated heat dissipators, consuming 180,000 ounces per facility. Second, high-frequency signal transmission. AI computation requires data transfer rates exceeding 400 terabits per second between processing nodes. These frequencies demand silver-based conductors throughout server interconnects and network switching equipment, consuming 320,000 ounces per facility. Third, quantum processing integration. Stargate facilities incorporate quantum computing components requiring superconducting materials. Quantum systems demand pure silver components operating at near absolute zero temperatures, consuming 150,000 ounces per facility. Fourth, electrical grid interface. Each facility consumes 1 to 2 gigawatts of electrical power, requiring massive silver-based transformers, switching equipment, and power distribution infrastructure, consuming 400,000 ounces per facility. Combined, each Stargate facility requires 2.3 million ounces of silver for infrastructure enabling AI capabilities. The silver isn't optional enhancement, it's critical infrastructure, without which computational densities required for artificial general intelligence cannot function reliably. But here's the mechanism creating Stargate's vacuum effect, beyond direct consumption. AI data centers establish new silver demand categories, creating ripple effects throughout global supply chains. Competing technology companies recognize AI leadership depends on infrastructure capabilities, driving additional data center construction by Microsoft, Google, Amazon, and emerging AI companies. Stargate validates AI infrastructure as strategic necessity rather than speculative investment. Within 60 days of March 8th announcement, venture capital allocated $47 billion to competing AI infrastructure projects. Each competing facility requires similar silver consumption for equivalent computational capabilities. Stargate doesn't just consume 31 million ounces directly. It triggers copycat infrastructure development, consuming additional 100 to 150 million ounces. The hidden mechanism amplifies through AI infrastructure standardization. Stargate establishes silver-intensive design templates, becoming industry requirements for competitive AI capabilities. Technology companies cannot deploy inferior infrastructure without risking technological obsolescence. March 8th revealed artificial intelligence crossed the threshold from software innovation to infrastructure-intensive industrial development, requiring massive physical materials consumption. The hidden mechanism transforms AI from digital disruption into geological constraint, where technological advancement depends on finite silver supply rather than infinite computational possibility. What happens next isn't speculation, it's mathematical inevitability. Stargate's $500 billion vacuum has created conditions where artificial intelligence officially competes with industrial civilization for finite silver supply. The 31 million ounces required by 10 data centers represents just the opening move in AI infrastructure scaling that follows exponential venture capital mathematics rather than linear geological constraints. The numbers become inescapable when you project Stargate's implications across the technology sector. Microsoft, Google, Amazon, and emerging AI companies cannot allow competitive disadvantage in artificial intelligence capabilities. Each major technology company will require equivalent infrastructure consuming similar silver quantities. Conservative projections suggest 50 to 100 AI facilities requiring Stargate-level computational power within 36 months. At 2.3 million ounces per facility, total AI infrastructure demand could reach 115 to 230 million ounces by 2027. That's 18 to 36% of total global mine production absorbed by artificial intelligence projects that most investors still consider purely digital innovation. But here's where the mathematics reach absolute impossibility. Global silver mine production: 630 million ounces in 2025, declining annually due to ore grade deterioration. Add Tesla's automotive demand, 27 million ounces, solar manufacturing, 200 million ounces, electronics, 150 million ounces, and AI infrastructure, 115 to 230 million ounces, and industrial demand would consume 78 to 95% of total mine production, leaving insufficient supply for investment demand, jewelry, medical applications, and strategic reserves. When artificial intelligence scales according to venture capital timelines, while depending on geological supply schedules, silver prices must gap to equilibrium levels that balance exponential technological ambition with finite resource reality. The adjustment won't be gradual price appreciation. It will be violent price discovery when supply constraints override financial engineering. March 8th marked the beginning of the end for artificially suppressed silver markets. When $500 billion AI infrastructure declares war on global silver supply, commodity prices discover their true technological value, regardless of paper market manipulation attempts by institutions seeking to maintain artificial price suppression. The Stargate vacuum represents artificial intelligence crossing the threshold from software innovation to resource-intensive industrial development. Every competing AI project amplifies silver demand through mandatory infrastructure requirements. This creates exponential resource consumption, competing directly with existing industrial applications and strategic national reserves. The question isn't whether Stargate's vacuum will overwhelm existing supply chains. The question is whether silver reaches 200, $300 or higher when artificial intelligence collides with geological constraints that no amount of venture capital can overcome. Do you understand that AI infrastructure has made silver scarcity mathematically inevitable? Or are you still believing that digital innovation can scale infinitely without consuming finite physical materials? The collision between unlimited technological ambition and geological reality will reshape both commodity markets and AI development within months, not years.